You don't even need to look anything like a man to be a man.
Toxic masculinity for sure.
Women in general are seen as like meek.
Women have all these options, match, nonstop.
Young men have to some extent been de-skilled in terms of relationships. And if there's a war, you've got to pick sides.
First of all, let me tell you bitches something about masculinity. Y'all say it's toxic.
Oh, God.
You can say all you want about I'd rather be trapped in the forest with a bear. But truth is, if you were trapped in a forest with a bear and a man, you hiding behind that man.
Yeah.
You ain't standing up to the bear and being like, I don't need this man.
But
if you want the more traditional answers, like so I've asked people in New York, and now I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now I'm here in Mobile, Alabama. And start asking those fucking gender-specific masculinity questions. You're going to get very different answers there. All right, let's see what it means to be a man in 2024.
Today in 2023, though. You don't even need to look anything like a man to be a man.
Toxic masculinity for sure.
Women in general are seen as like meek.
Women have all these options, match, nonstop.
Young men have to some extent been de-skilled in terms of relationships. And if there's a war, you've got to pick sides.
So today I'm out here and the question that I'll be asking is masculinity toxic?
Yes. They never express like their feelings. It's something that you learn from society.
There's a lot of pressure put on like men, the pressures society put on what masculinity is.
As men, we have a responsibility to provide, to protect, and to profess.
I think that's what's most toxic, and we don't allow people to kind of define that for themselves.
Oh, I need to be a strong and masculine man because I want people looking at me and get women. And
Oh, don't worry. You're never
going
to be that.
Toxic masculinity.
No, it is not toxic. I believe that masculinity is needed today. When I look at people my age, like it's all about toxic masculinity. And I would just say that that's not like a good message to send.
The classical role of men is not like sustainable today. Now like there we have a lot more of women that prioritize careers over like family. Not being the breadwinner in certain cases can be like makes some men self-conscious, like feel like they're not, they do not belong.
Money's worth out of that stuff.
I think you can be masculine just by being yourself.
It's like today we can't seem to get along and it's like men are demonized.
Men are literally disgusting.
White men dominate and exclude women.
Men are trash. That's common in society.
And in the absence of proper role models, men are feeling lost, lacking direction, and even forgotten.
Young men didn't know what they were supposed to be doing.
Most men are desperately lonely.
And if either gender can't show up as their best, it can only hurt society. But in today's lack of nuance, is it considered sexist to even explore masculinity? And can we realistically find a balanced approach to gender dynamics, or is it too far gone? I guess we gon' see.
What do you think it means to be a man today in 2023 then? In 2023, you don't even need to look anything like a man to be a man.
A lot of people that like transition from like being female to male have seen that they are treated completely differently. I don't get cut off as often. People actually care about what I say.
Do you think society still
that's
values
not what I've
masculinity?
heard.
I don't understand
I've heard
why
they
would
don't
we
like
need
it.
to value that. Gender and roles, like I feel like it's not good to be like defining what's good and what's wrong. It's whatever you're feeling like.
I have masculine traits and I think I have feminine traits. Feminine traits that I was thinking about, my hair, some parts of my face look like that, but facial hair and stuff, those things are like masculine.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it like black or white. It's a really, really deep matter that I cannot explain.
So now I wanted to ask an expert to see if he knew the answer.
I'm Richard Reeves, president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, a think tank and research organization specifically focused on the issues facing boys and men today.
You mentioned that both the left and the right are approaching masculinity incorrectly. Why do you think this gap exists where only the extreme definitions of masculinity is currently being presented?
It's one symptom of a broader problem in society, which is a polarization and zero sum. That the right are saying you should be more like your dad, and the left is saying you should be more like your sister. And in the middle are most of us, and trying to figure out how to be guys in a world that's changed.
What if your sister is like your dad?
Roles kind of went away. Young men don't know who they truly are.
In that instance, then, how would you personally define like a real and mature man?
The process by which a boy becomes a man is always a bit more fragile, a bit more socially difficult. There's a reason why every society has had rites of passage and ways to help boys make that transition. I have 3 sons, and I've tried to raise them being willing to put yourself out there, to take some risks, and sometimes risk rejection or failure. The second is this sense of graciousness and understanding and absolute respect for women and other men and everyone else in society. And thirdly, I think it does bring in the reality of something of a protector role, which is the reality that women on average are more physically vulnerable than men.
So it's clear that there's been a change,
But
whether
what
it be the
is a
perception
woman?
or definition of masculinity. And so I was curious to ask those who perceive it as toxic. How do you think the role of masculinity has evolved over the years?
I'm Gen Z, and I feel like we're a lot more open to talking about our feelings, and the guys even. But I still think we have a long way to go.
I wouldn't say it's changed, but more like it's looked down upon. It's still the same, but now it is. I think the definition itself changed.
Do you think that toxic masculinity is a result of biology or culture?
Culture, definitely. It all depends on how you're brought up, and how, for example, a guy who's raised like with women will have a different personality to like guys raised with men.
It's a mix of both. I'm going to talk about this experiment that was done, but it was about some monkeys. There was this monkey in like a group that was generally like more aggressive and like.
Are you showing clips from Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yep, I noticed that.
First of all, let me tell you bitches something about masculinity. Y'all say it's toxic.
Oh God.
Every single one of them thinks masculinity is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Until
they need it.
Until they need it. Mm-hmm. So you can say all you want about I'd rather be trapped in the forest with a bear. But truth is, if you were trapped in a forest with a bear and a man, you hiding behind that man.
Yeah.
You ain't standing up to the bear and being like, I don't need this man. All of a sudden, gender roles just reappeared out of fucking thin air. Okay? If you're on a ship, it's sinking. You got to get to that lifeboat.
Men and women, women and children first, right?
If the last seat on that lifeboat got took by a man, because he wasn't being masculine, he was accepting your gender, the first thing you would scream is, women and children first, what are you doing? Sorry, masculinity is toxic. I can't do that. I can't.
Like,
is that where we're at?
Is
that where we're at?
To ask themselves, anytime they talk about gender or anything like that, okay, let's pretend the Titanic didn't happen when it did. Let's pretend it happened like tomorrow.
Now. Yeah, like right now. And you're on it. And I'm on it.
Do you still feel the same way you feel about gender? Or are we...
If there's a dude at the life raft trying to keep people off and going, women and children first, are you going to stand up and go, fuck the patriarchy? Everybody should have a seat. Are you going to be screaming that? Or are you going to be like, no, I'm a woman. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna shut my pretty little pie hole and just sit down in this lifeboat. The vapors.
The vapors.
Yeah. Just saying.
The vapors.
The actual vapors.
The actual vapors.
Oh.
This whole argument over like toxic masculinity and girls defining what men are.
Go out the window.
No, girls defining what men are. Just swap that around for a second. Well, imagine if a bunch of men. What's the reaction when men tell women what femininity is?
Oh, well, imagine.
No. You shouldn't wear that. That's not feminine.
We don't think you should be allowed to get abortions.
I don't do laundry. That's a feminine thing.
I mean...
You should be more feminine.
You should... I mean...
Refusing to do the laundry, that's toxic femininity. I need you to do the laundry, please. Yeah. When men tell women how to be feminine...
Or
to
do with their
that's
bodies.
their fault.
Yep.
But when they try to act manly, the women get to tell them how to act manly. And if they don't do what the women say, also their fault. So don't tell women what to do, but also ask women what you should do. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go ahead, Gen Z. Tell me how to be a man.
that kind of permeated throughout the whole group. At some point, they literally got into like fights, and they would like, I think they ended up like killing each other or something like that. They took away like all the monkeys that exhibited those traits, and then the next generation was totally like fine. If we deem that these reactions are like normal and like aggression and violence is normal, that will become part of our daily lives.
Why has masculinity become demonized?
Merely by raising the issues of boys and men, you put yourself in a particular tribe, and that's the tribe of people on the alt-right, in the manosphere, and therefore against the other tribe, which is the tribe who are worried about women and girls. And if there's a war, you've got to pick sides. And I think every aspect of that is wrong. There are all kinds of challenges facing young men and young women that are different as well as overlapping, and that most people are perfectly capable of holding two thoughts.
Because today the message that is traditionally spoken to men has shifted, and especially in the media. The controversial Gillette We Believe ad in 2019 was a perfect example.
Is this the best a man can get? It's been going on far too long.
The ads also address issues like bullying and sexual harassment in a way that seemed to portray masculinity as a whole as violent, sexist, and toxic.
This advert is really dangerous.
It's like an anti-masculine Gillette commercial. It makes like every man look like a misogynist piece of shit.
Yeah.
Although the video became one of the
and
most
you make
disliked
products
videos on YouTube,
specifically for men.
Masculinity
and then you told men they're not men. Guess what men? Guess what razor men aren't buying now?
Europe, they found that thinking masculinity is bad for your behavior is linked to having worse mental health. But when men are viewed as oppressors, is there even any room for empathy for male struggles? And so I was curious on what the streets thought. What do you think are some of the challenges that men are facing today?
Masculinity, definitely. I don't know, people will be like, oh shoot, like you have long hair, you look like a girl, this and that. Other men trying to like make themselves more like, oh, I'm a man, like.
Roles, stereotypes, toxic masculinity for sure. I believe it's a big issue. It's okay if you don't want to feel vulnerable or whatever, but they should just ask for help.
There are a lot of men who are really struggling right now. There's a reason why men are at 3 times higher risk of a death of despair from suicide or drug overdose or alcohol.
In your definition, it seems like a man who is acting very, let's say, masculine might be considered toxic masculinity. Would the opposite be considered toxic femininity?
He was
the way
a
I said
casualty
it,
of
I guess
this
it should
war.
be. I don't think that that's ever been talked about, really.
What do you think is more common, toxic masculinity or toxic femininity?
I think we've mostly focused on
Toxic
men and,
femininity.
like, patriarchy.
It's not talked about
Never
as much,
heard
but it's
about
definitely
toxic
more common.
femininity. I think in general in society,
Oh,
we're
they'll
more
never admit that,
accustomed to hearing
That's
about
why
toxic
it's-
masculinity rather than toxic femininity.
The word that men would use for toxic masculinity is hysterical, crazy bitch, so that maybe that's why we didn't hear about that. Women, you know, maybe that's why you never heard that.
Do you think toxic femininity exists?
Everybody's kind of toxic in their own way. We don't go through life the same way that men do. Guys can just walk out at night and be like, I can go on the stroll at midnight. I can't do that. Women in general are seen as like meat.
The most toxic femininity, I would
fuck
say,
do you
is
live?
among girls. I'd say like girls are more judgmental toward girls than guys. And like, let's say even if a girl has more traditional opinions, I don't know, if a girl want to be a housewife, they're gonna like judge.
Because if there's one
I
thing
used to
I've
go on
learned is that
walks
the
at, like,
extremes
midnight.
exist in pairs.
With my
We
dog.
need to all men.
Phrases like all men to men are trash and patriarchy generalize males as privileged, abusive,
We haven't been in
or
a
even
patriarchy
scum.
for
When we
a
say it's
while.
all men,
Oh,
truly,
yes,
it is
all
all
men.
men.
And as of November 18th, 2021, the fact that searching all men on Twitter resulted in 87 profiles, while proud misandrist yielded 26 profiles, suggested that not only are people promoting such views, it may also be becoming more socially acceptable.
This is an assault.
Those
on
weren't
all
very big
men.
Yeah.
numbers.
I
Those weren't very big numbers,
in general,
though.
have to be a bit kind of snowflakey.
On
It's
Twitter? Do you know how many
even
users are
happening
on
to the
Twitter
youth.
and you
Yeah.
pulled
At
up
a
less
school
than
assembly in
100 for each
Broward
search?
College in
Yeah.
Australia, all male students were told to stand up and apologize on behalf of their gender for collective ills such as sexual assault. And although the justification was in response to growing concern about treatment of girls at the school, girls were left feeling exposed and upset, while boys were made to feel guilty for being men. And as male student Vinny
Yeah, that
stated,
was a bad
we
idea.
had to apologize for stuff that we didn't actually do.
One boy came home and he said, Mum, I'm not a rapist. Why have I been forced to apologize for this?
And in an era where we're encouraging boys and men to be more open, it becomes challenging for them to actually do so when they're still receiving messages that their feelings and perspectives aren't really that valued. And if expressing even slight sensitivity about the male experience is viewed as invalidating the female experience, how can we ever never expect to establish healthy communication. And so it's important to remember, though, that the extreme and radical cases don't represent the majority of women or femininity, just as extreme examples of toxic masculinity
it's
don't
the mixed
represent the male
messaging.
majority.
If
So with
being a
nearly
man
half
is
of all adults
toxic, it
under
makes you
30
part
are
of the
single,
problem.
and 34% of
But
them
not
are
being a
women, and
man
63% are men. It's apparent that there are
isn't
extreme
attractive to
differences
women,
in dating struggles.
then
And so why are
then what do
men
you
so
do?
lonely?
Yeah.
When it comes to dating,
You're
what do you
damned
look
if you
for
do,
in a
damned
guy
if you
then?
don't kind of
Oh
deal.
God, so much.
I thought you just said, men should just be themselves.
They should be themselves, but sometimes themselves is not gonna cut it for me. I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I don't look for guys.
You're no
Let's
prize.
start there.
Have you been able
Maybe
to
you
maybe
should.
relate to, let's say, a straight dude's dating struggles by dating women?
No.
Be funny, be kind, don't be an
I have.
asshole. Like,
I think every girl should try
I
to
know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, someone that's
should
gonna
make
be
a guy's
so that we can be
profile
really
and spend a
intense
month
when
just trying to
I'm
pick up a
I'm
girl
not
on
gonna
Tinder.
stop. So like somebody has to like tell me to shut up at some point.
You want to be put in your place?
That's a
I
way to
have
say
very
it, but
little
like
patience
Be
for
a
women
nice
now.
person overall.
I
to
think
talk
I think
to,
that
like,
that's a social experiment I would do. Is I would take every girl, and I would make every girl in this social experiment. And you would be able to just pick any guy's picture. Like they would have to make a guy's profile on Tinder and spend a week trying to get, because it would take a girl less than a week to get laid.
Yeah.
On Tinder
Yeah.
to get a date. I want them to spend a week trying to get a date on Tinder, using a picture of their father when their father was their age.
Yeah.
Like not their current father, but like ask your dad, hey, can I have a picture of you when you were 25?
Yeah.
And then
When you were around my age.
Yeah,
at
when
the
you were
time
around
that
my
you're
age.
doing this. I think we should get the girls to do that when they're
because
like in their
then
20s.
she's using a picture of basically what the male version of her would look like. It's her jeans. This is your stock.
Yeah.
This is where you came from.
Mhm.
This is the most, biological representation of a male you. So make a profile for your dad, uncle, whatever, some male member of your family
Yeah.
that's older,
Yeah.
and what they looked like when they were your age. Preferably father.
Yeah.
And you can put whatever you want in the profile that you think would attract women. The only requirement I have for the profile is the picture. Those are the pictures you're forced to use.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't like Google fucking Chris Hemsworth to be like, oh, I
Yeah.
get laid in a week. Yeah. It's fucking easy if everybody can look like Chris Hemsworth. No. You need to look like what you would look like if
Yeah.
you were a guy.
Yeah.
And then spend a week. The rules would be, I would have two rules. One, you have to use a picture of your biological relative when
Yeah.
they were your age.
Yeah.
Rule number 2, you cannot reveal that you're a woman. So you can't like make your first message, hey, I'm part of a social experiment, and try to get a girl to just jump up. Nope.
Yeah, no.
You have to be that guy for a week.
Yep.
And try to
You
get a girl
have to
and try to get a girl to go out with you
Talk
within
to
a week.
them like a guy.
First of all, you got to get one to talk to. Let's just start there. I know as a girl, you're used to opening Tinder,
Jesus
and there's
fucking
like
Christ.
50 fucking matches a day.
Like,
Be a guy and swipe right on just fucking everything and see what comes back. Because that's how most guys just do Tinder. You reach a point where you're like, fuck this.
where
and
you
you
don't
just
care
start
anymore.
swiping
Yeah.
right on everything
Like-
and seeing what comes back. And the ones you
And-
don't like, you just ignore. You just.
you get these freaking. I
'Cause
don't
the-
know
alright,
whether
'cause
their
the
brains
difference-
are just dried out.
So the difference
They
between.
don't know how to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah, I know. So the difference between the way a girl uses Tinder and the way a guy uses Tinder is a girl opens up Tinder and she takes her time picking which one she swipes right and which one she swipes left on. Why does she do that? Because she knows every
She has
single
options.
guy that's thrown in front of her is a potential match.
Yeah.
Is an option.
She has options.
She is basically shopping. Every single one of them is an option. She gets to be selective.
They're trying.
A guy pulling up Tinder, every single girl that throws in front of you is not a fucking option.
No.
No
It
matter how
feels-
much you want it to be, it's not. So
it feels
you
like
reach,
they're not trying.
So you reach a point as a guy where you want to actually see what your options are, and the only way to do that is to pull open Tinder and just don't even look at the screen.
everything.
Just don't even look at the
Yeah.
screen. Just I'm swiping right, swiping right, swiping right, and then you
We've
open
done
it
that.
tomorrow
Yeah.
and you see what comes back. And those list of people you match with Those are your actual options. And then you pick which ones to remain matched to and which ones to unmatch with and ghost impolitely.
Yeah.
That's toxic masculinity. But if you don't swipe right on everybody and you treat everybody as a potential match, you're going to be A, swiping left on actual matches, and
you're going to want to blow your brains out.
Yeah, you're going to be spending most of your time swiping right on girls you like to be matches, but they're not matches. Those girls are never going to match with you. And the ones that would, you swiped left on. The best way to handle Tinder if you're a guy, swipe right on everything. Don't even look at the fucking screen. Swipe right on everything and don't actually look at the profiles until you've matched with them.
Yeah.
That's when you look at what your options are. You've matched with someone, you go, oh shit, I got a match. And then you look and you go, oh, I swiped right. Yeah. So you matched with someone you're not into and you go, oh. But you didn't know you matched with them because, again, you weren't even looking at the screen. You swiped right on everything. 100, 300 pounds, don't matter. White, black, fat, skinny, you swiped right on everything. And then it came back and you go, oh, I'm not into that one. Unmatch. That's it. You do your shopping from the match list. You don't do your shopping from the potential. You like swipe right, swipe left. You swipe right on everything and see what comes back. Does it make you a bit of an asshole, or does it come off like a bit of an asshole when girls match with you and then immediately you unmatch? Probably. But, I mean, as a guy, I can tell you that happens to us all the time. Is we match with a girl who never says anything and then unmatches, even before the conversation starts.
Yep. And, I mean, I am
girls
I am
do
a
that
woman
too. Girls do that too.
Because we are polyamorous, or however you want to put it, because so it's new for me. I have only been trying to date women.
I keep trying to make you handle it because seeing you slowly learn what it's like.
Like, how many years have we been doing this? Isabel's what?
Like 8 years now. Yeah.
So 8 years?
Yeah, like 8 years.
Yeah,
now. So it's seeing you, like, I've slowly over time been like, you handle this. I'm tired of doing it because 90% of the time now I get this added element of I'm bringing a woman along for the ride. So 90% of the time they just want to talk to you anyway. They don't believe me. I've had those I've clicked with. We were talking and I'm telling them my wife's cool with it and they're like, well, I'm going to talk to her. So they always want to talk to you anyway. So I'm like, why am I wasting my time? Because they all just assume that you're the one that handles everything. Yeah. So I might as well just let you handle it. And watching you slowly realize what it's like talking to women in a romantic manner, you're getting a little taste of what it's like for men. And I say that because you're only getting a taste. What you're getting is still a sanitized version of it because they know they're talking to a woman. So they're still talking to you differently than they would talk to me.
Yeah. But here's the thing. We met on a dating app or website or whatever it was. And I am different. I am not like most women when it comes to that. I don't have patience. My time is precious.
So speaking of that, look, if there's any guys out there who are using the dating apps, because we met on a dating app. Clearly, I've spent a lot of time in dating apps. So I feel like my dating app game is pretty strong.
Good. Yeah.
Let me give you guys some pointers because I find what most men struggle with. I struggled with it too, but everybody struggled with it when I started out because I started when everyone was started because it was new. Now there's expectations. Yeah. So you guys are starting on the back foot. So if you need a head start, the hardest part that most people have, specifically most guys have, you know what, I'll say most people because girls learn the hard way that it's not easy, is starting the conversation, that first message, just initiating contact. Because Bumble was an app designed so that only women could initiate contact. And what they found over time was that as much as women scream about toxic masculinity and as much as they scream about, you know what, we want to control shit, we want to control the conversation, men are discussion, men do this, when they gave them an app, Bumble was insanely popular, like as popular as Tinder. And the gimmick for Bumble was women have to initiate the conversation. Once they match, the guy can't talk unless the girl talks first. And what they found was that like 85% of girls would match with guys and not initiate the conversation. Yeah. And it's not because they didn't want to talk, because the CEO started like asking for their feedback and stuff and sending out surveys. And what he found was they didn't know what to say. It gave them anxiety and they just unmatched.
Yeah. Or they just plain forgot that they were supposed to.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to have 24 hours to do it, and they would take too long, and then, or they would, like, most of them said, no, it gives me anxiety. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Like, it took them a long time to build up the courage to do it, and then once they did it, they didn't know where to go with the conversation from there. So Bumble has since removed that restriction.
Yeah.
So they gave them an app where they have total control, and it turned out they didn't want it. Because sending that first message is hard. So if you need help, and I guess this will apply to guys and girls. If you need help sending that first message, because like she said, girls know that they've got unlimited options on these apps. They don't want to waste time. Your first instinct is going to be to be friendly, to do what you would do in real life, because that's what I always did. I was like, well, how would I approach a girl in real life? And then I start a conversation online the same way. The problem is people don't treat online the same way that they treat real life. In real life, just saying hey is enough, because they get a feel for your personality and the tone of your voice, the way you said hey, the smile on your face. They can see your reaction.
Yep.
So a lot of things there that are lost in translation via text. And then small talk would follow. But when you try that on an app, you throw out the hey, and then you try to go with the small talk. The conversation either doesn't go anywhere, or they just unmatch, or they get irritated, and then you know. And I found that girls would snap at you to be like, "Stop wasting my time." And I'm like, "What the fuck? I'm just trying to talk to you." Okay. So I came up with a way to do both, because depending on, I'm going to assume that all of you want the same thing I wanted. If you're just there for sex, and you don't want a relationship, you could probably amend this for that. But if you want an actual relationship, this is probably the best way to do it, because that's what most girls are there for. They know that sex is just easy to get. So most of them want like a date first. They don't want to just jump in bed. So assuming that you're trying to get them on a date and you're trying to see if you click and then have sex, but sex is definitely going to be on the table. You need to make your intentions clear so you're not wasting your time or theirs. So my opener was, I had several different kinds of openers. One of which was, I would ask 2 questions. I would ask them to tell me their favorite thing to do for fun outside the bedroom. And then I'd ask them their favorite thing to do for fun in the bedroom. So I'm asking a vanilla question and a sex question right off gate. You're going to get a few responses back from that. If you get ones who are wondering why you're asking about sex in the first message, okay, cool. She's not interested. Say, well, I didn't want to waste your time. I wanted to make my intentions clear. I'll unmatch. There you go. You just saved everybody some time. If she answers in either one of the 2 questions and doesn't focus in on the sex thing or act offended by the sex one, then she's interested and a conversation has been started. What you find is how you treat the conversation after that will depend on like how things go.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially, if everything plays out correctly, you're essentially carrying on 2 conversations at once. So she's going to answer the vanilla question, and then she's going to answer the sex question. So then you have to leave a comment or carry on a conversation about the vanilla answer, and then space, press that enter key twice, and then
you're basically carrying
about
on
the sex question. So you have an answer for each. So you're carrying on 2 conversations at once. You're carrying on the vanilla and the sex conversation at the same time to make sure that you guys are on the same page all the way through, all the way up to the first date and what will happen after it. So you can't just focus on the sex part, because then she's going to get grossed out. But if you just focus on the vanilla part, then she's going to think, well, what the fuck? I answered the sex question and now he doesn't want to talk about it. Now he doesn't seem interested in sex. Did I say something wrong? You have to carry on both conversations at once, but you can't hone in on just one over the other, because
women overanalyze shit.
Yeah.
And they will analyze that. But my thing that pisses me off the most and just irritates me the most about it is that, and I am sorry, but you would think most of the women that you talk to on dating apps are fucking dumb as a goddamn Like,
yeah, you
thick
can't.
as a rock. Like,
what I've learned is that you can't ask the normal questions. You must be hyper specific if you want an actual conversation to start on a date now. Because asking a girl, hey, what do you do for fun? I've literally gotten the response back, oh, just chill, do fun things. Oh, you do fun things for fun? I never would have fucking guessed. What a riveting conversation.
What do you think's fun, bitch? Like, are going to Klan rallies fun for you? I don't know. There's lots of different definitions.
You can't ask
for fun.
any questions that can be answered with one answer, with one-word answers.
Because they
So
will
no yes or no
give
questions.
you one-word answers.
They will carry on their entire conversation because a lot of women treat the conversation online like it's a fucking turn-based role-playing game. Okay, I responded. Now it's your turn. Even though you didn't give me anything to respond to.
Nope.
I've literally had them just respond with LOL, and I'm like, well, that's not a response. Are you going to add more to that?
Why are we laughing out
then
loud?
I don't respond, and then a couple days later, I'm like, hey, so you still interested? She's like, yeah, I was waiting for you to respond. Respond to what, bitch? You just laugh.
It ain't checkers.
Like that's not a fucking response. Like I asked a question and you went LOL, and I'm like, what did I say that was funny? Like, are you going to elaborate? Oh yeah. So you have to be hyper specific with your questions. You could start with those two questions. If that's a bit too forward for you, I found playing little. It's called game for a reason, but some people misunderstand what they mean by game. It's not like a manipulative game. It's a conversational game. So I found playing conversational games work. Like I'll send my opening message to be like, you could do the first thing you want to try to do is actually read her fucking profile. Find something in her profile that you're interested in or that like a shared interest and just hone in on that. And, ask her about that. Or if she says she likes anime, what's your favorite anime? She says she likes this, what's your favorite thing, blah, blah, blah. And build the conversation off that. If she's got one of those stupid fucking profiles that say nothing and give you nothing to work with, I can't count the number of girls whose profile I says where it goes about me and their about me section just goes, ask me.
Ask me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Ask you what?
Ask
Give
you
me
what?
something to ask. And then you can't just ask them either. Because if you're like, so tell me about you. Your profile says to ask you. Oh, I like to
what
chill.
do you want to know?
Oh, I like to chill, listen to music, watch movies. Like
They're
nothing,
very
vague. So you have to be hyper specific. So I found playing games that are conversation starters. And when I say games, think of like a game show, like the dating game, or one of those shows where people go on a date and then they force them to ask questions. Think of that shit. So ask her. If you don't want to do the sex question, you can go, hey, tell me 2 truths about yourself and 1 lie.
Yeah.
And then see if you can guess the lie. Just something.
Yeah.
Just something. You can Google a million of those. Or try to be specific when you ask them things. So if you don't know what to ask about, she's got the about me section just saying, ask me. Instead of going, hey, tell me about you, you can be more specific and say something like, what's one thing you think you know more about than me?
Yeah.
What's one thing you consider yourself an expert in, you think you know more about than anyone else? That forces her to give an actual answer, and if she knows a lot about it, chances are she's very interested in it. So you can build a conversation off that.
When you start talking to me, did you have to pull conversation out of me?
No.
Okay. All right.
No. I was still learning the conversation thing. By the time I got to you, I had learned what not to do, basically. Yeah. But I had gotten to the point where I wasn't pulling conversations anymore. I was specific with my question, and I remember that. You did have a profile typed out. I did actually hone in on the profile and actually show interest. And I learned what not to do. So I know what kind of questions not to ask because I don't want to get one-word answers back. I don't want to get yes or no answers back. I don't want to get emojis back because those aren't fucking responses. I wanted to get stuff that would force an answer out of you, but do it in a natural way. When I think of forcing an answer out of somebody, it's like that last chick we talked to where she just gave vague answer after vague answer after vague answer. And finally I snapped and I was like, what do you consider fun?
Yeah.
What kind of music? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite place to eat? Where would we go on our first date if I let you pick? Just
stop being
something.
vague.
I need something.
Something.
Yeah.
But
I never felt that level of frustration with you. The conversation always felt natural. So like that first question, I can't remember what my first question was, but I know it had something to do with your profile, and it just led into a conversation because you were also obviously interested in having a conversation and actually talking. And it seemed like you were at the same level of frustration with it that I was when we met.
Yeah.
Because I remember our first date, that was one thing that we talked about was just how much bullshit we had on the app before we met each other. Yeah, and like the shit that we had to go through. So,
and back to the actually read the profile. This isn't just for men. This is for men and women, because I cannot tell you how many times we've had a woman message us, talk to us, and then act surprised that we're a couple, that this is a couple thing.
The ironic part is that the girls I find that do that the most are the ones who have stuff in their profile. Like their headline will be, read my profile first. Don't waste my time.
Yeah, it's like they don't feel like they
like the
have
rules apply to them.
Yeah. Like that's the toxic, femininity that he's talking about here.
Rules don't apply to me. Yeah.
I can just go get any man. I can just open up my dating app.
I have to tell you how to talk. I have to tell men how to talk, but I can do whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what their profiles do, is tell you how to approach them. Don't waste my time. Headline, don't waste my time. Read profile first. And you go read the profile, and it's just a list of fucking instructions on how to talk to them. It's not actual interest and shit. Yeah.
Tell you how many women I have fussed the fuck out because you have caught an attitude with me when you realize.
When they talk about toxic masculinity and where it comes from, she has been way meaner on that app than I've been. Like, I know that there's like memes about guys who get rejected or just get or just get disgusting on apps and say like horrible shit. I don't immediately look at, like, when a girl posts those messages, like she'll screenshot the guy like having a moment and, like saying some off the wall shit and like talking shit. I don't immediately jump on her side if she didn't show me what led up to that. Like, if that's the first thing the guy sent, if that's how he came in there, there are some guys that do that. But if it looks like that conversation's been going on for a while and you're showing me the end of it, I need to see what led to that.
I need to see everything.
Because
yes, some guys.
There are the ends of some conversations where she says shit I would never say. She's like, fuck this bitch, fuck this shit.
Yeah, I get tired. Like, he is being so patient. And I finally just take the phone out, like, God damn it! Like,
give me this. Let me talk to this bitch.
And I'm sorry. And I think I even gave you that speech. I gave when I was dating. I gave every man the same speech on the first date. I did not hold back because my time is goddamn precious. It is precious, just as yours should be. And when you waste my time, you are slowly murdering me. And I
let me pull back a minute. Let me add a little context here, because you're slowly murdering me sounds a little extreme, but she's got aggressive sickle cell. She was born with the disease. She understands she's not going to live as long as the rest of you. That is always on her mind, that she is on borrowed time right now. And you're wasting that borrowed time.
You're wasting my time.
So wasting her time when she thinks she's gonna.
Wasting my time.
When her life expectancy.
Acting like an idiot.
When her life expectancy is 25 years or so less than yours, she treats her time differently than a normal person.
Like,
how I'm caveating that. And you would too, if a doctor is like, you're probably not gonna make it to 70. Yeah, like tells you that your life expectancy is about 25 years less than a normal person. Yeah, so
like, I had a guy
treat the rest of your life a little differently after that.
One of the black guys I was trying to date, he stood me up
on
for
purpose.
Our first date
on purpose.
Yes,
I've heard of this move.
He says to me,
I've heard of this move.
Well, what it and by the way, so we were supposed to meet at a theater. We were supposed to meet at some point. I did not live near there. I lived where we live at now.
Okay.
And
it's a good 20-minute drive to this mall.
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so, and it also, as soon as I got into my car, at the time I drove a manual, it started pouring down rain. And getting on the interstate, you know how it is around here. When it's, like bad pouring down rain. You can't see 2 feet in front of you pouring down rain.
Yeah,
you know how people drive when it rains.
This is not what I meant by you have to play games and why it's called a game. The games you have to play are like conversational games in order to get actual responses and to kind of stoke a conversation online. Because you can't do things online that you can do in person. In person, you can read obviously the expressions on each other's faces. You can read each other's body language. There's a lot of nonverbal communication happening in person that is lost online. So you have to play games in the messages to steer an actual conversation into happening and make it feel more natural. When I say games, that's I mean, I've heard of the game you're talking about where the guy stands you up on your first date on purpose.
To see how crazy you get?
To see how crazy you get about it. Yeah, so he can weed out the crazy. Those are stupid games for stupid people. And when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So don't do that.
I got there because my whole thing was I thought I was going to be late because traffic was really bad. I was stuck in traffic, pouring down rain, and I don't like to be late. And so I get there, and because I didn't want to get out of my car and get drenched, I called him. And didn't really get an answer. And then I texted him. I said, hey, I'm here. Are you inside? Do I need to grab my umbrella and come on in or what? And so I didn't really get an answer back. So I was like, fine. So I grabbed my umbrella, got out of my car. Of course, the umbrella did not help because it was raining that hard. Got wet. Not only did I get wet, I got wet and cold. What happens when I get wet and cold?
For those of you unfamiliar, getting wet, black women are
not
like
that the
wicked,
sickle cell.
I know the sickle cell. I was saying it's a combination of things.
Well, it wasn't that. I had braids in at the time. It wasn't about my hair.
Oh, I'm just saying. Usually, when black women get wet, it's like the fucking wicked.
It's
like the Wicked Witch of the West over here. Just,
no.
But
it was
getting cold with sickle cell could trigger a sickle cell crisis,
cold.
Which could mean hospitalization.
Exactly.
Again, see, these are why she responds the way she does that normal women wouldn't. But
but that's the thing. When you're dealing with, everybody's got their own shit going on. It's like that old saying of you don't know what battles other people are fighting. So how about you actually just act like a normal goddamn person is all I'm asking.
Playing those stupid games to find out if the girl's crazy.
No.
It just proves you're the one.
You're
the one
you're
being
the
crazy. You're the one being
And so I got wet, got cold, had to take medicine, and I left, got back home, and took medicine, and I just, called it, scrapped it. I didn't really try to reach out to him like that. Like I maybe called him a couple of times.
Yeah, like at that point you're done.
Yeah.
Just fuck
because
this,
I'm done. Yeah. And so, and he was someone who works where I worked at. So when I went back to work weekend.
Why would you do it with someone you work with?
Right.
You're going to have to...
I know it was a big place that you don't always run into people, but we worked in the same department. So you can't, I wasn't one because my position, I moved around a lot. So, I can date and it's not that big a deal. Some people don't like to date where they work because, it gets awkward. But because it was such a big company and I moved around a lot, different areas, so it wasn't that big a deal. But he was the person at the desk in the department I worked in.
So of course you're going to see him.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to. He's literally the first person you see.
Yeah. And so, that weekend comes back around. He only worked weekends. I only worked weekends. And so, And, you know, he sees me and I'm like, hey, so what happened? You know, and I'm not allowed, like, at work, I'm very quiet.
Yeah, you put your professional face on.
Yeah, I put my professional face on. Like, I worked with people who didn't even know I could talk, you know.
Yeah, that's how I am
for a
at
long
work.
time.
I am a completely different person at work.
Yeah. And
I'm
so,
all business.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I was like, hey, what happened? And, we were walking, because usually what we would do is we'd go on a walk and we'd talk, shoot the shit when it was slow. And so we were walking down the hallway, and so there's nobody there or whatever, so we stopped to talk. And he's like, so yeah, he tells me about his game he plays where he stands the girl up on the first date to see how crazy she is.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
And I looked at him like he was a goddamn idiot, because he was. And that was the thing, like, that was what...
Well, I'm not crazy.
You know,
but now I'm also not interested.
Yeah.
So good job.
And the thing that made me
if this is winning,
him,
you won. You won the game.
Yeah. Like, I am interested in people for their minds, not for anything else. Why did this just beep?
It's probably dying.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in people more for their minds more than anything else. And, he was a super smart guy.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, it's nice to have that. But it's your mind I'm attracted to first. So, yeah. But I told him, I said, I explained to him about the sickle cell, about the rain and all of that. And I explained to him about how my patience just isn't what it was when I was younger. Like, I realize that I do not have that luxury, that you cannot waste my time. I deserve, even if I didn't have health issues, everybody here deserves to have their time be
respected.
Important and exactly, respected by the person who they're,
doesn't mean rush things.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't mean like do this shit where you're just purposefully wasting time just to see what kind of person.
Yeah,
when this shit could have been found out.
Crazy.
There's 100 other ways,
at
least, to find out if this girl is crazy that you could do over the course of actually going on that date.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And finding out this stuff, like, oh yeah, she's got an illness that causes her to be hospitalized.
Yeah, all of this could have came out in that first date.
Because that's usually when I would do it, that first date. And yeah, so, and he, like, the look on his face was like, shit, I messed up. And I was like, yeah.
Yep,
He said, well, I guess I can't convince you. I said, no.
Nope. You fucked up.
No, once you waste that time.
Well, at least he learned that lesson, and he didn't have that. Well, you a fat bitch anyway.
I mean, he was a nice guy, and he, like I said, he was a smart guy. It was just, I don't know where he got that idea from. But
well, hopefully he dropped that idea.
I'm hoping.
Or he found a girl who's playing the same game, so they stood each other up on the first date, and then neither one of them noticed.
It's kismet. But, yeah. But that's why I get so irritated trying to talk to women, because I'm just like, why do you act like you don't know how to have a conversation?
I know you yell at me because you're like, you have too much patience with them. And I'm like, you understand, most girls don't have the view on life that you have with time. They're fine wasting, most girls are fine wasting their own time because...
But
most of them, let me tell you a secret. Most of those girls you're talking to, they're talking to 6 other dudes at one time. This is not a waste of their time. This is 2 minutes of their time, and if this conversation fizzles out or you prove to be crazy, then they haven't lost anything because they're talking to 5 other dudes. So you have to have an insane level. You basically, it is a waiting game when you talk to girls because they're talking to 6 other dudes. And what I've learned is that you just got to wait them out. You just got to wait them out. Is that they'll fuck up before you if you're patient enough.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
But I mean,
so just keep the conversation going, read the room, and be patient.
To me, so yes, that
But
guy,
I understand we are getting older. We have less of that time to be patient.
And I got children now.
We still
Time
have
is
to.
at a
Yeah,
premium.
it's a really tough place to be in because getting especially getting a girl into this now, as opposed to just going out with me, is going to take extra time. So we have to. It's going to take even more patience and time. Now that we have less of it to work with, it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, but I mean, my thing is though, when you are that way, when you're a girl and you're not very respectful of our time, it makes me think that you're also not very respectful of your own time.
Well, like I said, they don't view their time the same because
it makes me think less of you. I'm sorry.
They don't view their time the same because they're talking to six other guys. So this isn't a waste of their time. They just sit down on the toilet, they pop out 6 messages, and they'll carry on 6 conversations. There's no time lost if this one doesn't work out because she's still got the other 5 she's talking to. So there's no time actually lost. It didn't take her that much time to type out the message. So it's all a game. It's all a game. Which one's going to win? Which guy is going to actually tell me what I want to hear? And that's the one I'll focus on. So she's just, Cass, a lot of girls do that. They'll talk to multiple guys and they'll see which one that they have interest in. So it's not like they talked to one and then they spent all that time talking to him and then it didn't work out. Now they got to go back to square one with a new one.
I talked to multiple guys too when I was online dating, but...
Yeah, but with guys, it does feel like you're wasting time because most guys, most guys will only get to talk to one girl at a time. So if they spend all that time talking to that girl, they're not swiping right looking for other girls. We're being patient and putting our focus on this because we don't have those options.
I assume.
Like we'll still swipe right on the app and stuff, but we may spend all that time working on this girl when we could have been out doing something else, when we could have been doing, but we're working on this girl because this is the one that's on the hook.
Yeah.
And we don't have any other ones on the hook. So I can't not give this my full attention because I don't want to lose it. But then it does suck when you've given them your full attention. You've been patient. You've given them all that time. And then they jump onto something else for no reason. Or what seems like no reason because you didn't do anything wrong. They were just like, fuck it. And then you're like, well, damn it. I spent all that time on this one. Now I got to go back and try to start over. Girls don't have the start over moment. They're talking to 5 or 6 at once, and when one doesn't work out, they just delete that chat and start on the next one. Like they always have that next one they can start with. Guys don't always have that next one they can start with. We don't.
I always just assumed that every guy was doing what I was doing because that's how you maximize your...
Yeah, but guys don't have those options. Your average everyday guy, like really hot or really rich guys, maybe, but your average everyday guy... He's lucky if he's talking to one at a time. He's lucky if he's talking to one a week. So most average guys, you might talk to one every other month. Like you'll swipe and it could take a month or 2 to get a hit.
Yeah.
Girls get hits fucking daily.
All the time.
So yeah, it's a very different thing.
All right.
All right, but let's see how these girls think. Maybe we're wrong because we're old and we're not part of this game. So let's see how they tell us it's played.
Girls hate nice guys.
Nice guys are...
Did yours turn off?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, I saw you weren't getting sound. Okay, let's try now.
Mostly misogynists covered. Like, they're literally girl bossing, gatekeeping, gaslighting. Like, that's what they're doing.
Why do you think men are struggling more when it comes to dating?
Men, they get to choose marriage. Women get to choose who has sex. Women have all these options, right? We're a swipe right, swipe left culture. It's like a casino slot machine. Bang, 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 boom, boom, match, nonstop.
You were also mentioning, the explanation of let's say video games and dating apps is kind of a lazy excuse to kind of put the blame on the individual when it comes to men's struggles in dating. But, a lot of people fail to mention things like the larger issues of economy, family lives, and the educational system. I like to actually argue, isn't masculinity about personal responsibility?
Men, I think, are reasonably unique as being about the only group who are told, yeah, it's your fault. So that individualism typically is not applied to certain racial or ethnic groups. It does seem like there's a bit of hypocrisy there in the willingness of those, particularly on the center-left, to attribute the travails of all other groups to structural causes. But when it comes to boys and men, oh no, it must be their fault as individuals. This is a whole new world in terms of What does it mean to succeed as a man?
And when men are twice as likely as women to give up dating altogether, some men are starting to go their own way. MGTOW.com has around 33,000 members with forums dedicated to men united in abstaining from relationships with women altogether. Advocates of MGTOW believe their way is a statement of self-ownership, and redirecting their time and energy towards pursuit of higher achievements instead of women is a better use of time.
If this is how it is, I'm going to take actions to prevent putting myself in that position.
Warn men about the dangers of relationships with women.
But on the other hand,
that makes
criticism
sense
can
to
be
them.
made that generalizing all women as false accusers and parasites riding on the coattails of men is not only misogynistic, but also creates an us versus them mentality that
Yeah, but they're doing
furthers
the same
divide.
thing. They're
With similar
claiming that
movements
us
like
versus
incels
them
that
with the
identifies as individuals
with the you
unable to
being a
find
man is
romantic
toxic,
or
but I only
sexual
date men.
partners despite
What?
desiring such relationships. It's evident that there's a growing population of men that are lonelier than ever.
Yeah, the hypocrisy
I've
is
never had a
real.
girlfriend before.
I'm recording this video because I'm lonely. I have no friends.
Because it's not just dating. 50% of men now report having no close friendships, marking a 5-fold increase from 1990. And so,
Yeah, I can see
what's causing this loneliness epidemic?
A lot of
What's
it's
your
online
relationship
stuff.
like with your father?
Not the best, but I mean, I'll live.
It's decent. I don't really want to get into it. I love my father.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
I actually have a really good relationship with my dad.
Do you think that kind of shaped your view on just masculinity and just like men in general?
My dad is a very emotional guy in the way like he will cry in front of me and he will not be ashamed of it. My dad like kind of like shaped what I look for into a man into like, oh, I want somebody that respects me.
Actually, it's pretty good. We are super best friends. It's the best relationship ever.
You know, we didn't really have like the greatest relationship actually. I kind of let bygones be bygones of the past, and like I really made an effort to repair my relationship with my father.
I grew up with my mom. My father is very, very macho. He would often tell me stuff like, you gotta submit to your husband when you grow up. And like all along, he's always told me that he loved me. It's been like 5 years since I've seen him last time, and I do miss him and I do want to see him. And even though we have our different, still my dad, I go on and
One of the facts that I stumbled across was the fact that within 6 years of their parents separating, a third of American children don't see their father again. How does that play out in the dating market? I'm not
Paying
sure.
attention, I
here.
see.
Girls who have good relationships with their dads when they're 16 have better mental health in their 20s and early 30s. It is clear that young men have to some extent been de-skilled in terms of relationships, and no curriculum can replace just watching how your dad behaves as a man. And that direct form of learning is crucial.
And when 1 in 4 young people claim that they lack positive role models in their life, is this a direct result
That's
of
why
the
they go 1 in
fatherlessness
4 end up
crisis?
going into Andrew Tate.
For generations, fathers served the role as role models for their children. And those who experienced this bond from a young age showed higher problem solving, cognitive skills, and better performance in schools.
Parental involvement is the key to their child's academic success.
Children who have both parents are more likely to be emotionally, educationally, and also behaviorally more prominent.
Because even without a present father, young men could still find these male role models in domains like schools. But with only a record low 25% of teachers being men, and even fewer entering new teaching programs, there's limited access to male role models.
Because y'all have been locking them out of it,
Male
basically.
teachers are still a minority in your child's classroom.
Teaching is
Don't
just
feel
not a
safe
male
with a
profession.
man
You need to go
watching
do
my child.
something else, something more masculine.
And while some research suggests that the gender of a role model might serve little importance for young people, evidence shows that men are falling behind girls in education. Despite previous inequality, now for every 13 girls who enter university, only 10 boys do. And so it's increasingly hard for people to find male role models in person. It's clear that there's a gap to fill. And so who are men turning for guidance? Who would you say is the positive male role model?
I have no clue because to be honest, I don't have any role models.
I can't think of like
How much you want to bet one of them's going to say
like,
Tate?
male role model at the moment.
For sure not Andrew Tate, like.
We can say Andrew Tate what it is, right? We see the people who are in the
Called it.
extreme
I called
limelight.
which word
If
the guy
negative
was.
things
I
are
was gonna say
happening
the
with
guy in
those
the hoodie.
people, that tends to reflect the dichotomy. It just so happens that the negative stuff tends to get shared a lot more, and that ultimately shapes, you know, how the things get
negative
perceived in
stuff.
society.
What do you think has caused this rise in digital father figures?
Negative.
They search for an answer to the question of how should I be in the world?
In the time on the Matrix trying to keep them down.
Yeah. And then you get a figure like Andrew Tate.
Sitting here telling men to cry more. It's okay to feel this way, that
Someone
way.
who has daddy issues really badly.
Very straightforward, simple answers. And that's, of course, very attractive. One thing we can be sure of is the average 16-year-old boy likes to be countercultural.
Yeah, I mean, he is. You cannot understand it, or as an adult, you can look at it and like see straight through him.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, as a 16, you know, as a young man,
yeah.
high school, freshman in college, age man, Andrew Tate is everything they want to be. He's attractive. He's muscular. He can fight. He's a kickboxing world champion.
I don't think he's all that attractive. He's got a wonky eye.
But I'm just saying, he's probably more attractive than they are. He's in shape. He's fit. He can fight. He's rich. He gets girls. He gets cars. He's successful. He's everything that they're told they should be in one person. So when he's telling you what he did, why wouldn't you listen to that? Because they tell you. They tell you all the time.
Why
in any other, no, just think about it logically. In any other aspect of life, you're told that when you want to learn something, you go to a professional. When you want to learn about plumbing, you call a plumber. When you want to learn about computers, you call a technician. You're not calling the baker to learn how to program your computer. You're not asking your wife. You're calling this. So when you want to learn to be a successful, in shape, tough, masculine guy who gets women in cars, well, that's what he is.
I know.
He's a professional. He fought for a living. He stays in shape for a living. Now he gets women and got rich doing that for a living. He's literally he is the professional in all the things that they. So why wouldn't they listen to him?
I know.
And it's hard to. And anyone who's telling them otherwise.
Yeah.
And anyone who's telling them otherwise is either jealous or in their way. And it's real hard to pull them out of that.
Yeah, I know.
Because the thing with Andrew Tate is, as fun as it is to joke and meme and hate on him, there's like, what makes Andrew Tate so appealing and what makes Andrew Tate work is that about 70 to 80% of what he says is true.
Yeah.
Is some degree of truth.
Yeah, there's a
it's
kernel
that
of truth.
Last 20, it's more than a kernel.
No, I'm saying
but it's that
each
last
thing it says, it's built around truth.
He speaks truth and keeps speaking truth and pulls you in.
Yeah.
And then that last 20 to 30% of what he says is complete bullshit. But he's pulled you in with all the truth that now you're hooked.
Yep.
Because everything else he told you up until that point is true.
Well, it's true. So why not everything? Why not everything after that?
As misogynistic as the way he says some of the things, and as abrasive as he can sound, what he's saying isn't false most of the time. When he starts talking about the Matrix and nonsense, yes, that's the part at the end. That's that 20 to 30% at the end that's bullshit. But when he's talking about how to talk to women, how to be a man, how to do these things, and the reactions and stuff you'll get, those are most of the time true.
Yeah.
Like he clearly knows how to talk to women. He does know how to talk to women. He does know how to stay in shape, how to, what masculine responses or what masculine things will get this response, what masculine things won't. He knows what to do, what not to do. He can tell you how to act as a man to get the kind of girl that you want. He clearly understands that very well.
Let's be honest. It's cult 101, honestly.
I mean, he understands it very well.
Yeah.
The thing is, he has to sell you that little bit of bullshit at the end because it's where his money comes from.
Yeah. That's
You are not. You're the product. When you follow Andrew Tate, because he's going to sell you a course to teach you this stuff. He always needs your money.
Yeah.
Pretty weird for the rich guy. They're supposed to be a role model on yourself and I'd always need your money. But it's the same way churches.
And it's so much.
It's the same way churches work, though.
Yeah, I know.
That like humans are conditioned to fall for that.
Yeah.
It's the same way churches work because they tell you stuff that makes sense up to a point, and then they feed you the bullshit at the end that you don't understand, so that you keep coming back and keep asking questions, and then they, God has no need for money, blah blah blah. It's told in religion you can't take it with you. You'll get all that stuff when you get to heaven. You don't need that money, but God also needs you to give 10% of your income. So,
as I usually tell our children, if anyone ever tells you that they have all the answers about anything, they're full of bullshit. No one has all the answers. And if you have to keep coming back to them to get the answers and you have to pay for it.
Yeah, because that's the way that, but that's the way young, lonely men work is if you tell them enough true stuff that they can test and know is true, then they're not going to question the stuff you tell them after that.
Yeah.
So that first part's conditioning, and then the second part is now I've got you where I want you. Now I need you to do this for me. Now I need you to do that for me. Now I need you. Yeah, and that's what ends up happening. But that's how Tate became what he is.
Yeah.
So I see the appeal.
Yeah, I get it.
And look, if you guys are looking for a role model who can tell you things that will work, who can tell you this stuff, and won't start a crazy Matrix escaping cult, I'm happy to help the youth.
Yeah.
I'm told I have things that most men want. And I didn't have to lie and bullshit my way together. No. So I can tell you what works in the real world. Will it make you filthy rich and get you to drive a Bugatti? No, I don't drive a Bugatti. No. Will it get you a lasting relationship that, get you all the things that you want?
Yeah.
Yes, I can help you get there. But you can't just do what I do. There is no blanket advice like that.
No.
That's the problem. No. If you're looking for a role model who can help you, someone you can talk to so you won't be lonely, who can listen to your problems. I've been thinking about doing that right here on this stream, is to have a call-in show where you call in and you tell me where you're at and what I would do if I was you. And that's what I'll do. I will need to see a picture of you because that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I would say, okay, if I looked like him, and I was in his predicament, what would I do to either get out of it or to get this? Are you going to get rich or are you going to get a Bugatti? No. But if your goal is to just, get a girlfriend, I'd probably get you there. If your goal is to get a girlfriend who will, be open to inviting other girls over, if that part of my life is the dream that you want to live, I can help you get there. It's going to take longer. It's going to be harder, but I can get you there.
A woman's opinion who's not crazy.
Yeah, we can probably get you there, but understand that it's not, it's going to, like, getting that girl, like getting a girl like mine who's into other girls and who's more open to all this stuff that so you can be like, oh, I got a girl and I got a wife and I get girlfriends too. Yeah, like if that's your dream, if that's what you want, you can have it. You can get there, but you're going to need advice catered specifically to you, and you're going to need to understand that it's going to feel impossible for a while, and it's going to take much, much longer.
Yeah.
You can't just get a girlfriend and then turn that girlfriend into that.
And
that's not how that works.
It's also not about, like, a lot of it is working on you.
Yeah.
Working on yourself. You can't.
But these are all conversations for another day because I'm thinking of making that a nice call-in show. But let's finish this up.
Yeah.
Got a few minutes left on this, and then we should probably get to bed.
Well, I want to show you just this one thing since we were talking about women. Yeah, I know. I know what time it is.
Okay. Well, we'll do one more to this. All right.
Role model looks like has evolved. But why is it that one gender has been able to adapt better than the other? Women have done a better job.
One gender
of,
has the control right now.
Masculine
That's the
traits,
problem.
whereas men probably haven't done as good of a job.
They're
of,
not hearing the
incorporating
other side.
More traditionally feminine traits. Why do you think this is?
Equal.
I
It's
don't
not
agree with first wave nor
Women
second wave
do
feminism,
control
but
the
I do
online
think
discourse.
that their work has done
Absolutely.
a lot for women nowadays, whereas like male issues, we've only seen like a rise in this like concern over the last couple of years.
Do you think at this point then there needs to be maybe more of a men's movement?
What if that's what it's gonna take?
I mean, that's kind of what Andrew Tate is. That's why he arose, is because for a long time, all you heard about was women's problems, women's problems. Women controlled the
fighting in the
discourse.
corporate world against men for top positions in companies.
Yeah, it was all, they created this them versus us mentality online, and anytime men tried to speak up, they got called toxic, they got called this, they got called that, and they got tired of not being heard.
The problem is that
and then
we're still in a society where
Tate was there
a
to
lot of
listen.
those more feminine occupations tend to get less status. The denigration of, quotes, women's work has been to make it even less likely that men are going to want to do it. And then by extension, like if we don't pay teachers very well, that also makes it harder for men. If we want more men to do more women's work, then we'll have to elevate women's work.
And for a small tribe of 20,000 in Central Africa, they seem to have found the balance. Gender roles in the Aka Pygmy are interchangeable, where some women hunt and decide camp locations, while some men cook and care for children. And even though there is still a traditional division of labor by sex, where women are typically caregivers and men are the hunters, to a point that it's not considered weird for men to allow children to suck on their nipples when women are absent. So it's no surprise that Aka fathers are within reach of their infants 47% of the time, more than fathers in any cultural group in the world. But despite this shared approach of tasks and decision making, top leadership roles have remained male dominated. But is this sort of balance possible on a global scale?
Yes.
Because even with K-pop's global popularity challenging traditional
But you have to
standards
go
of
back
masculinity
to
with
defining what
elaborate
genders are,
outfits
and right now we can't even
mega
agree on
buys,
that.
It's interesting to see
So.
that South Korean culture as a whole remains highly patriarchal and heteronormative.
Because that's
in
like
many
the
ways.
foundation
That the blurred
of
lines
what made
between
that work for
masculine
them,
and
is they found the
feminine
balance
orientations in
by
K-pop
defining what
don't
each
always
role
translate
was,
to other aspects of life.
by defining what each gender was, and then making exceptions for those genders and working out how it worked within that. You have to have a framework to work within.
Because even though economic change
And right now,
brought
we
forth
don't even have a
greater
fucking
gender
framework.
equality
We
and a
can't
break
even
from
decide
traditional
on
roles,
a
with
goddamn
over 2 out of
pronoun.
5 American households having a woman breadwinner has also challenged what fathers are traditionally for. Because with blue-collar jobs disappearing and some men lacking guidance to advance mentally, educationally, and sexually, a healthy society will depend on both genders thriving. And so, how can more men adapt and create a new future moving forward?
What benefits will there be to society when men are doing well?
Well, the downstream effects for women and children will be huge. Right now, we're just leaving too much talent and energy on the floor because we're losing so many of our men. More women are having to pick up more of the work. They have to do the men's work of earning the money and the women's work of raising the kids. So the mere presence of there being other engaged dads around the community is good for everybody, especially for the boys.
We need to start loving men more in order to allow them to grow. Fully formed human beings and that are able to process emotions and that have emotional intelligence.
So we can stop being such monkeys too.
Straight up. Yeah.
Because what feminists and men's rights often overlook is that each gender's actions.
Women have to be able to let men
understanding this
do
interplay is
women's stuff.
crucial in fostering a
If
better
you guys want to be
How can
breadwinners
men
and you want to step into traditional male roles, then you have to be okay with your man being a house husband and your man doing more traditional feminine stuff. And the thing is, most women, when a guy wants to be a house husband, it's looked down on. They call him lazy. I don't want a house husband. He better get out there and work too. Like they want 50-50, but they don't want him to do the woman stuff too. So he's left going, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, if you're gonna split it, then you have to split it. You have to.
learn from past mistakes.
If you want to take his role and you want to be the breadwinner, then you gotta let him be.
Toxicity. Because even in the hypothetical scenario of Barbie Land that started with an authoritarian matriarchy followed by angry Ken dolls overthrowing it to create an extreme patriarchy in response, both instances demonstrated that the extremes can only hurt the other gender.
I don't think people who are left-wing ever really change to become right-wing, or people who are right-wing ever change their position to become left-wing. Just being open-minded to different person's perspective.
Yeah, and I think we just need to become better at disagreeing with one another and talking.
I want to see the whole interview.
Because it's
with this guy.
only
There
by
was a
promoting
lot
and
of jump
embracing
cuts right there.
masculinity alongside female empowerment that we can finally realize that we need each other.
Also,
more
when
than
you take to the
ever.
streets,
That's
why is
exactly
the streets
mission
always New
to
York?
explore that.
I want to see you guys take to the
I
streets in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And talk to regular people in rural America. I want to see that contrast. Yeah.
Man up for
He
something,
just
click
walked
on this.
outside his overpriced apartment
won't
and asked
regret it.
questions.
I get it.
And yeah, you're
New
going to get a
York,
certain type
you're-
of person
you're gonna
there.
find a lot of
But if
different
you want the
people,
more
but-
traditional answers, so I've asked people in New York, and now I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now I'm here in Mobile, Alabama. And start asking those fucking gender-specific masculinity questions. You're going to get very different answers there. Extremely different answers.